Hey y'all, I'm Terry with 50 Flowers, and today we're talking about Queen Anne's lace and Orlaya. Queen Anne's lace is a beautiful flower. She gives a little bit of a wildflower feel. She has teeny tiny little white petals. She's got lovely movement and bend. She works great as a filler flower, maybe an alternative to baby's breath if you want a little bit more elevated look. She is available year round. So speaking of elevated look, I want to introduce you to Orlaya. So I call her the prettier cousin of Queen Anne. So Orlaya, like Queen Anne, got a nice wildflower look, lots of movement. She just has some lovely, delicate petals that are a little bit larger and fancier than the Queen Anne's lace. Orlaya is only available from November to July. So Queen Anne's lace and Orlaya make lovely filler flowers to use with other flowers. So I put her here as a little dancer in this bud vase with a few other flowers. Or if you like the more simple, maybe monochromatic look, just a trio of blooms together in a bud vase is also really pretty. I thought I would make an arrangement using only Queen Anne's lace and Orlaya. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to use these flowers, even though they're very simple and they're more of a filler flower, but to show you how to use negative space in an arrangement. So negative space gives your flower some breathing room. They give it a little bit more movement and interest. They kind of invite your eyes to dance around the arrangement, and it just gives a little bit more elevated feel when you're using negative space and everything is not just kind of roundy-moundy and all squished in together. So I have a little footed bowl here, and what I've done is I've wadded up a piece of chicken wire, and that's going to be my structure down in the bowl. And then I'm going to take some clear floral tape and tape off a nice grid also on top of the chicken wire, one to hold the chicken wire in, but then also give the flowers a little more support since these are light and delicate and airy. And this is clear tape, so you really won't be able to see it once the flowers are in the vase, and you don't see it on the edges of the vase. You want to make sure that your vase is very dry when you do this, or else the tape won't stick very well. Just going to add some water, and then we'll start designing. So what I like to do when I'm making an arrangement that's using negative space is I like to go ahead and sort of set the boundaries of my highs and lows within the arrangement. Typically, there's going to be some sort of void in the middle, to the side, some way. It's very asymmetrical. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a flower that has a nice tall, sturdy stem. And that's one thing that when you're working with negative space, you're going to work with the flower's natural shapes and curves to help you create that look. So just going to sort of guesstimate where I'd like for the stem to land. Go ahead and work it into the vase. So I'm going to take a few of these again to create my shape and movement. I'm going to make sure that the flower heads are facing all different directions, so when it's seen from different angles, it looks beautiful all the way around. So this one has a nice sideways lean, so I think I'm going to use that on this side of the arrangement. Now some of these have a little bit too much downward bend, so I'm going to use them around the base of the arrangement. I think this one has a lot of bend, so it'll look nice just sort of hanging over the edge of the vase. When using chicken wire, sometimes you have to be a little patient, twist and lean the flower into the arrangement until it feels nice and secure. I think I'm going to go in with a few Orlaya now. Continue adding to my shape. Right now I'm still just building the parameters of the arrangement, making sure that I like the direction it's going, because remember I'm going to use some negative space and that's going to be in the middle, so it's going to draw your eye in and then out to the sides. So I think I've got a pretty good design going on now, so I need to start covering up my mechanics because you don't want to see all of this chicken wire down in the bottom. So I'm just going to take a few short pieces, and I'm going to use mostly the Queen Anne's lace down low because it is a little bit more solid of a bloom. I'm also going to use some that maybe have a little bit too much of a droopy head that I can sort of manipulate to cover the area that I need to cover. So these bigger blooms really are going to give me a lot of coverage down low. And then as we build the arrangement, we'll work some stems through the heads of these just to continue to keep that center nice and covered. It's also nice to use some of the blooms that are maybe a little bit more green and don't have as many petals. Let's start building out the rest of the arrangement. Again, we're just going to be working with the bends and natural curves of the flower. So since this one is leaning off to the left, let me go ahead and use her over here, avoiding putting too many in the very, very center. This one's leaning backwards to the right, so I'm going to put her on the back side. This is looking really good. I notice when I turn my arrangement that right here feels like it needs another flower potentially facing forwards. And I'm focusing on highs and lows. So I've got a lot of high, so I want to fill in a few mid-range. Again, this is just to help your eye move throughout the arrangement, keeping some negative space to allow all of the flowers to shine on their own. I'm being very selective when I'm choosing the flowers out of the bucket to find ones that I like the way they bend and turn for where they need to go. So like right here, I feel like this would be a lovely addition. So now I'd like to add a little bit more contrast with Orlaya. And I love how Orlaya has like 2 blooms sometimes on their stem, so you can really work with that to fill in, give interest. And just like I did with the Queen Anne's, I'm going to add a few low pieces of Orlaya down low to start hiding more of the mechanics. As I'm building, before I get too far in, I'm really making sure that these mechanics are covered. Otherwise, it'll be hard to get those flowers deep down in the arrangement. So as you're designing, you want to keep moving your arrangement in all directions to make sure that it's looking balanced, it's looking full all around. So I notice when I look at it from this direction, it seems a little linear this way. So I'm going to make sure that I add a few blooms that are popping out to the sides. And the beauty of an arrangement that uses negative space is that it doesn't have to be symmetrical. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. You just want to make sure that the eye feels like it's being drawn in all different directions. A beautiful Queen Anne's lace and Orlaya arrangement made using the negative space technique. So as you can see here, I've got some highs and a little bit lower with a nice void in the middle, giving all the flowers room to breathe. The main takeaway for this arrangement is cover your mechanics down low, then build your shape with the highs and the lows, and then just place your flowers throughout the arrangement so it looks light and airy and whimsical.